a shed update, and I wanted to do this one separately, and I am going to be adding some literature to the ARC. And some of the literature that I do add to ARC is like special books. I added Shep Payne's upstairs, if you've seen his book. I've added Spaceships of the Final Frontier. This is by Rick Jackson, which I actually, I know this individual because I have met him at shows and everything else. So it was honored to have his book to go in the ARC too. Plus it is spaceships. You know, we have space in the heart for spaceships, but we are going to add this new book, Out of This World Modeling. This is by Fine Scale, which is also Combat that produces, and the first one that they produced is Famous Spaceships of Fact and Fantasy. This came out in 79, 80, around there. As you can tell, my copy has really been loved. That is all me looking at this thing for many, many years. But anyway, I was contacted to contribute to build a kit for this magazine, and I'll tell you all one little quick story. I was actually given a list of what not to build, and that's basically anything that was Star Wars or Star Trek, because the book basically takes care of all that. There was other modelers that did the same thing, which is that's fine. You know, they already you know, put their name in the hat to do them, which if I ever get to do a Star Wars or Star Trek, I would like to actually do, and I don't know if I got it handy, I would actually like to do a kit bash or something of that nature, not actually build like the Enterprise or you know, the Reliant, you know, a specific name. You know, do like a kit bash like my Phase 2 Enterprise there. Oh, come on, where is it? I probably buried it. Anyway, I had a kit bash that was easy to show, but I don't know where it's at. But anyway, I'd like to do something like that. I think that would be a cool book to do, show a kit bash. But anyway, aside from that, there was one thing on the list that was not mentioned, and that was Battlestar Galactica. And I was like, man, well, put me down for that. I'll do that, because Famous Spaceships, and there's actually a second edition which came out in the 90s, and I got one coming. I'll show that one in the shed update. But anyway, one thing about the Famous Spaceships, if I can flip the page here, they did a Viper. Of course, Battlestar, you know, was in its prime, you know, 79, 80, and anyway, I wanted to keep up with the tradition of having a Viper in the book since that. So anyway, where am I? I'm on page 90 something. Come on. Well, there's getting closer. There we go. I did a Viper, but I didn't want to do any Viper. I noticed the Viper here is a standard Mark 1, and the second edition is the same, basically the same article, or a I assume the same article, but anyway, it's a Mark 1. I wanted to do a Mark 1, but I also wanted to do the Scarlet, and I did this about a year ago, and I actually kept the model. So there is the Scarlet. Very rare I ever get to keep a model, but I will probably keep that one for a while, because models are always reusable and everything. Or, you know, someone asks me, hey, can I buy that? And I'm like, sure. But anyway, there's the Scarlet. I basically took a standard Mark 1. If you notice, I write the name and date on what I do for a publication or a company or anything. Took that. I do have a conversion kit for it, which is a vacuum form one. I could have used it, but I decided I just hacked it up like you would normally a one-off, and I did that for the article. As you can see, the step-by-step that I did it. Now, there's actually when I did this, I did a bunch of pictures and a little more history on it, but they condensed it down. I understand why, because, you know, they got to have more models in here, which is basically what we need to do. But anyway, there he is. Gives you the basics of what I did, and it's just a absolutely great book. And I mean, there's they incorporated figures and like Batman and Wolverine, which you know, not really hardware, but, you know, it's close enough, and it incorporates, you know, people that don't like Battlestar, you know, they like Batman, you know, or X-Men, they can get the book and still learn the same things. Even military modelers, you know, they can learn a few things too, because it's just great knowledge and everything. But anyway, I wanted to show everyone that because I thought I wanted to keep the tradition alive in the famous space ships, which I have basically looked through this book, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and wanted to keep up the tradition of having a Viper, Battlestar Viper, in the book. So if there's ever another one, try to, who knows, maybe do the same thing on the next one if they let me, or see if they let me do something else. But who knows? But anyway, we are adding out of this world modeling to the Ark, and it'll probably go, I don't know, it'll probably be here in the sci-fi section just for you know, general purposes. But anyway, we'll do something like that. We like to keep the books handy, and I do like to add a little bit of literature to the Ark. But anyway, that's what I've got going on today. We are adding the Out of This World modeling book to the Ark. We're adding probably going to add the built-up Scarlet Viper to the Ark, which he probably needs to go into the Battlestar section, but that's also where I put kits when I do little reviews on it. But anyway, we'll find a home for it. But anyway, that's what I've got going on today, so stay tuned for the next exciting episode.